Hello again, everyone. So today we are going to get into the first of a couple episodes on conservatism in Europe and what was kind of going on in the early to mid 1800s. A lot of this is a result of the Congress of Vienna and ongoing meetings about that. So let's get right into it. And so in conservatism, you have a variety of different theorists and guys that would write and kind of some ideas that were adopted by lawmakers and guys like Metternich and stuff like that. And probably one of the big ones is this idea of Edmund Burke, who wrote a book, Reflections on the Revolution in France. Okay, and the way that kind of conservatism looks here is that like the idea of society is a contract. Okay, it's a contract between the state and the people. Okay, but it should really be looked at as more of a partnership, okay? And that partnership cannot be voided or overthrown. And that's the idea, is that you do not have the right to overthrow the government. I know it sounds kind of crazy. What if they're bad or this or that? Well, the idea is to petition. There's some other things involved which I'll get to, but yeah, the concept of a revolt is not a right under this theory that's put forth, okay? Now, the job of each generation then is to try to improve upon and then pass down the government. And so it is all about sustained longevity, if you will. Now, it doesn't mean that all change is bad. What it means is that change should not be violent or dramatic, okay? And changes must be gradual and evolutionary. And this is going to be important because it's going to be this idea that we have everything right and this is how it is, and changing everything is going to be bad, and you use the French Revolution and the chaos that it was, because that is, a fact, and that's what we need to do. Okay, now this is going to be backed up by Joseph de Maistre, or Mistre, I don't know French. I should have paid more attention. Anyway, now his main idea was to take a lot of the concepts of Burke, but then add into it that a hereditary monarchy is crucial, because only monarchies preserve order and prevent the chaos of revolutions. Okay, and we also have this idea of God-given monarchy, so that hasn't gone away, that the reason why kings are kings is because God wants them to be kings. Yes, we had we had the Protestant Revolution long ago and different religious rights, but this idea of God being the one to determine monarchs, this has not gone away. So, what are some more core ideas that we see overall here? One is, of course, obedience to political authority. Two, that organized religion is crucial to social order, and it should be the church should be supported by the federal government. That revolutionary upheaval is bad, and demands for things like civil liberties and representative governments only result in negative things. The community should always come over people's individual rights, and society must be organized and ordered. And the best way for all of this stuff to happen is tradition. So, if we look at the alliance, and we've talked about the ideas of intervention, if not, go back to the video on the Congress of Vienna, please, and rewatch. So, how did this all work with the Quadruple Alliance? Well, what they decided is that they will periodically meet, and if we're starting to have some problems, it's in these meetings that we will license decisions and actions. So, what do we got going on? All right, so the first key meetings. The first one was at Aix-la-Chapelle, which is a beautiful little city here. I mean, this is just delightful on the right. Almost looks like it doesn't even look real, but it's real. And that's like an awesome church. They're very well known for that. Okay, and look, the Ferris wheel, yay. But anyway, so here what they decide to do is to let bygones be bygones. We're now a couple years after the original Congress of Vienna, so the occupying armies are moved out of France. France is made part of the alliance, so now it's a quintuple alliance with Britain, France, Russia, Prussia, and Austria, and they now firmly have Louis XVIII in charge, so we're all feeling good, and that's how it should be. The idea is we're not supposed to have these armies here forever. We're just making sure that we have the monarchy, and as soon as we feel comfortable, we can move on. Next meeting at Trapal. All right, well, it looks like we've got some revolts fermenting in Italy and Spain. Okay, basically there are two kings that are not liked, even though they're not related. Ferdinand the First, who was in parts of Italy, and Ferdinand the Seventh, who was the king of Spain. They are both Bourbons. They're not like brothers. They're cousins. And this is really the first kind of test of intervention, this idea that, okay, we've got uprisings here, so we need to figure out who's going to go in what country so we can preserve the monarchy. Well, it turns out Britain does not like this, and they think that, yes, we should try to encourage these monarchies, but they're realizing what intervention actually entails, and they're starting to distance themselves from the alliance after Trapal. They don't particularly like it. Okay, here's Ferdinand the First, here's Ferdinand the Seventh. Okay, the next place they go, at that time it was called Laibach, and now Ljubljana in the modern-day Slovenia. And so what we have here is Russia, Prussia, and Austria. They get together and they officially decide to send troops into Naples, which is where Ferdinand the First was operating out of, and to crush the revolution, as well as to crush some revolutionaries that were trying to cause some problems in Piedmont, which was another place in Italy, and they are able to they're going to be able to put the beat down here. That's quite a beautiful, beautiful city. Next, it's time to meet in Verona. So now we're meeting in Italy, and that, of course, is after we start to send troops in to some of these different places, okay? And really what the whole point of this was to then talk about Spain, now that Italy is settled down. So France is going to be the one to intervene in Spain and make sure that Ferdinand VII stays in charge there, and they will be successful. But this last intervention pushes Britain out, and Britain not only does that, but they actually decide to help the Latin American states rebel. We'll be talking about that separately. And many of them win their freedom, especially because the British do all they can to prevent continental troops from actually arriving in areas like South America and Central America to fight them. And what Britain then also does is they're like, oh, you know what we'll also do? Hey, Latin America, let's trade. And they become one of their strongest allies. So even though this intervention is working well on the continent, it does cause some alliances with Britain. And again, if we look on the map here, this is just to give you an idea of these Latin American revolutions that happen. So this is owned by Portugal, and then you have all this stuff up here, which was Spain, and then the Dutch, and the British have a couple things. And so that's in 1800, and after this all goes down in 1830, look at this, you see all these different battles by these different leaders, and we'll be talking about them separately, and basically now everybody is free. France has a little bit, the Dutch have a little bit, okay, but that won't last forever. Well, French Guiana is still there, but Dutch Guiana will change over to, I believe, Suriname. And so they were tremendously successful. So the Latin American revolutions, this is really going to destroy Spain. I mean, Spain is basically done as a power after this point. They'll pretty much just have Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines after this. And once again, we keep talking about how Britain's ahead of the curve, and they are going to stay ahead of the curve here. But there is one interesting thing that happens. The Greeks will revolt. In 1821, the Greeks will revolt from the Ottoman Empire. You see a depiction of that on the right. The Greeks are over here, fighting against the Ottomans over here. Okay, these cool curved swords are called scimitars. They're pretty cool. And so now here's the deal. Now, technically, this isn't supposed to happen. The Ottomans are part of Europe, and revolutions aren't real cool. But the thing is, the Europeans that's that ancient Greek heritage. There was definitely some disputes between the Muslim-dominated Ottoman Empire and Christian Europe, really some holdovers from the Crusades and whatnot. So Britain and France will really defeat the Ottomans in naval battles. Russia will then get involved and declare war on them and attack the provinces of Moldavia and Wallachia that the Ottomans did control at the time. And this will result in the Treaty of Adrianople, in which King Otto you see that man right there, is going to be proclaimed king because Russia is going to receive the two other provinces that they attacked. And basically what happens is the Ottomans allow Russia, France, and Britain to determine what Greece should be. They decide it should be a new kingdom, so Greece is created. They are now independent, and the monarchy led by Otto will be there. So this is a little bit different, but then once Otto is in, they'll try to make sure that the king stay. And then these are some examples, and we're going to talk about some more different conservatism that's happening within the countries, but this is what is occurring because of the Congress of Vienna, okay? All right, so we're making sure we're getting notes, and I will once again see you guys soon.